All right, let's get into it. We are about to break down what is, without a doubt, one of the most intense and downright disastrous dinner parties in all of literature. Seriously, this is the exact moment a king's carefully built image just completely shatters in front of his entire court.
So, yeah, that's really the big question, isn't it? How does this happen? Macbeth has just seized the throne through murder and betrayal. He's throwing this huge feast to look powerful, stable, in control. But as we're about to see, control is the one thing he absolutely definitely does not have.
And this particular guest, well, they're not just running late, they're also dead. And this is the trigger, the one thing that turns a royal party into a public horror show.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Macbeth is trying so hard to play the part of the gracious, confident king. He's welcoming everybody. He's making toasts. He is putting on a masterclass in how to be a royal host. But just underneath all of that, the foundation is already cracking.
And you can see that split right here. 1 second, Macbeth is the smiling king, glad-handing his nobles. The very next, he's pulling a hired killer aside for an update. And the news is mixed. The hit on his friend Banquo was a success, but Banquo's son, Fleance, got away. And that one little detail, that Fleance escaped, is what brings the whole performance crashing down.
And this quote just perfectly captures his reaction. Listen to the words he uses. He says he would have been perfect, as solid as marble and rock. You can just feel the security he was craving in those words. But with Fleance still out there, the witch's prophecy about Banquo's sons becoming kings is still a threat. And bam, his fit of paranoia comes roaring back.
Shakespeare gives us this incredible trio of words here to show us exactly how Macbeth is feeling. Cabined, cribbed, confined. It makes him sound less like a king in a castle and more like a trapped animal in a cage. He's totally boxed in by his own fear and what he's done. The walls are closing in.
And this is where it all just spirals out of control. As Macbeth turns away from the murderer to go back to his guests, he sees that his seat at the high table has been taken. The problem is, no one else can see who's sitting there. It's the bloody ghost of his murdered friend, Banquo.
This is the first explosion. He just screams it. Imagine you're one of the lords at this party. You're watching your new king stand there and shout full-throated at what looks to you like a completely empty chair. The breakdown is officially underway.
His terror just gets deeper as he starts describing this thing in horrifying detail. He's almost trying to argue with it, Trying to convince himself that it can't be real because it breaks all the rules of nature. But the horror is just completely taking over.
And then, finally, this desperate, frantic plea to make it go away. He calls it a shadow, an unreal mockery, but his sheer panic makes it all too real for him, and his reaction is making things get very real and very awkward for his guests.
So let's just boil it down to this simple, stark fact. While Macbeth is living through a supernatural horror movie, his court is just witnessing a man having a complete and total psychological collapse. The guy who's supposed to be their strong, stable leader is literally raving at thin air. His guilt has become so powerful it's now projecting itself into the room for him, and only him to see. So the ghost isn't just some spooky phantom. It stands for so much more. It's the physical form of his guilt. It represents the awful consequences of killing a king. It's also a terrifying look into his own mind as it falls apart. And of course, it's a huge symbol of the supernatural evil he's unleashed.
Okay, so while her husband is completely coming unglued in front of everyone, what is Lady Macbeth doing? Well, she immediately leaps into action. She is trying to salvage what is, by any measure, an absolutely catastrophic situation.
And man, is she strategic about it. She's got this two-pronged attack. For the audience, the lords, she plays it cool. She's like, oh, don't worry about him. He's been having these little fits since he was a kid. But to Macbeth, in these sharp, angry whispers, she is just scathing. She questions his manhood. Are you a man? Trying to shame him into snapping out of it.
And what's really fascinating is how she connects this ghost to the floating dagger he saw right before he killed Duncan. She's basically saying, this is just another hallucination. It's the painting of your fear. She's trying to downplay it, but in doing that, she actually reminds him and us that his guilt has been messing with his mind from the very beginning.
So eventually, Lady Macbeth has no choice. She has to just kick everyone out. The party is a total disaster. And, in that eerie quiet after everyone's gone, Macbeth has this moment of chilling clarity about what he's become and what he's got to do next.
This is his horrifying realization.
He gets it now. One act of violence doesn't just end things cleanly. It just creates the need for more violence. It's a cycle, and he's trapped right in the middle of it. Blood will have blood.
So he figures out his new game plan. First, he accepts that more violence is unavoidable. Second, he decides there's no going back. So what's his next move? Go back to the source, back to the witches. And he ends with this absolutely chilling line. We are yet but young indeed. He's basically saying, you thought this was bad? We're just getting started.
This might be the most famous quote from the whole scene, and for good reason. He uses this incredible metaphor of wading through a river of blood. He's saying he's walked so far into it now that trying to turn around and go back to shore would be just as hard and tedious as just continuing on to the other side. So he decides to just keep wading forward.
And how fast does he put this new plan into action? Instantly. He notices that one of his noblemen, Macbeth, wasn't at the party. And for Macbeth's paranoid mind, that small act of defiance is enough. Macbeth is now a threat. The path of blood already has its next victim picked out.
So we end on this question. The banquet scene is the absolute point of no return. Macbeth walks into that room as a man haunted by his crime, but he leaves it as a tyrant who is fully committed to a future of bloodshed. So the real question is, does any piece of that terrified man who saw the ghost still exist, or has he been completely consumed by the monster he just decided to become?